think it's
It should be better now. Jeff's door was open for a second.
Gotcha. Very good. Well, guys, real reason we wanted to start doing this is we've been basically said, oh, this is a recruiting effort from people that we've invited to it. It's not. The reason that we've done this is we've had so many new agents at the industry, and we've found that a lot of them, and we're more than happy to do it. We're walking them through, best practices, how to communicate with their clients. A lot of them have had questions on what we do to generate business, and rather than us tackling, all of this just by, from case by case phone calls, we thought, we just thought to just start doing a collaborative effort, kind of a mastermind group on different topics. So the first one that we did this year, I just sent a survey out to all the agents that attended and said, what do you guys want to learn about? What is it that what challenges are we having? What is it that we're trying to improve on in our businesses? We got a really lengthy list, which actually helped us a ton in kind of identifying where the pain points are for people in this business. And some of them have been around mindset, which, if you ask me, is like 80% of what we do. So it's like the most important topic we can talk about. However, today's is going to be more about the principles, discipline, consistency. I don't know if a lot of you know this, but I built my whole business on outbound lead generation, and it's not the sexiest way to do it. It can be very painful. It's a lot of phone calls. It's a lot of door knocking. It's a lot of open houses. However, I wasn't willing to be the person that dug into my pockets and wrote a check to Zillow for 10 grand a month. Not saying there's anything wrong with that if you've got the money. But for me, it just wasn't the answer. I wanted to create a company where in any market, regardless of how fruitful it is, that we had the basic principles where we could go out and find business regardless. And I didn't want to be handcuffed by companies that that basically make you all these promises if you pull your wallet out. So the other part of this is, again, we just want everybody to have an environment where we can all grow together. I encourage you guys all to interrupt us and ask questions and speak. We've got some familiar faces on here. Brady, why don't you introduce yourself and who you are?
Did you say Tom Brady?
I did.
No, my middle name is Tom, so I'm not Tom Brady, the reverse Tom Brady. But yeah, born and raised here in Idaho. Work with Envoy Mortgage, and yeah, I've learned a lot from Dave over the years. I originally worked with his team in the home warranty space years ago, and made the transition over to mortgage about 4 or 5 years ago, and been loving it. And yeah, basically spend my time in Idaho Falls, Boise, Twin Falls. I'm kind of all over the whole state, and I can also lend in almost all 50 states. Just New York is the only state I'm not in. So any other state besides New York.
Do you have Utah now?
We have Utah officially now. Yes.
That's new. Cool.
Yeah, which is exciting. That's been a work in progress. Who would have thought Utah would be a little complex to get licensed in? But yeah, so it's honestly, yeah, I've learned a lot, like I said, from Dave over the years. A lot of the things that they've implemented, I've done some similar things in the mortgage space, and it's helped grow my business a lot. So thanks, Dave, for putting this all together.
Oh, my pleasure, man. Thanks for attending. And it's awesome to hear that you might have learned something from me. So, no, I think everybody's on this call for the same reasons, right? We all want to grow. That's why we're here. So today, we are going to be talking about, again, it's not everybody's favorite topic yet. I feel like we've got it dialed down really, really well. One thing right now, so I just got back from a seminar in Utah called Spring Break. Spring Benson runs a top producing team in Utah, and she's getting on the path of basically opening up expansion teams. I think her team in Utah did about 850 units last year. They brought some awesome speakers in. And the funny thing is you always go to those looking for the silver bullet, right? The shiny object that you're just like, I know I'm missing something that's going to skyrocket me to the next level in my business. And you always come home with, oh, I just need to go back to the basics. And the shiny object that I got from this trip over this last weekend was the mirror. it was looking in the mirror and realizing that there is no other shiny object. You know, you can take some things and try to implement them, but really it comes down to the fact that transactions do not make us money in real estate. I think that thought is a myth. What makes us money is the standards that we hold ourselves to, the accountability, the discipline, the heart, your mindset, the grit, being education based, not being a know-it-all, being coachable, and the belief in a process that maybe your mentors are telling you to do and that it'll work, but believing that it'll work without first seeing the victories and seeing that you know, just the wins right out of the gates. And I think that is what separates the top 5% in a lot of sales industries from the other 95%, is the people that are willing to remain tenacious enough for that 6 month to year period before they really start seeing the fruits from their labors. Most people fall off. And to be honest with you, throughout my journey, I've about fallen off the tracks more times than I can count. And it really has been for the coaches that I've hired throughout my career that have kept me on track. So that coaching has been instrumental. And I thought, well, this is a great way to maybe offer some of that coaching in a group environment where people don't have to come and pay for it. And I'm sure there's something that we can all get from this. We all lead our businesses in very, very different ways. There's no right or wrong way. But again, I'm going to teach you kind of what I know, and that's just been outbound prospecting. And it's been maintaining a level of discipline that most aren't willing to do. And then the other big thing is distraction. Distraction is a massive word in my business. And when all my people, everybody on the Nelson group can say we bring it up all the time. There's more distractions in this industry than any other industry out there. And being able to not necessarily not take advantage of some of the fun things that you know, lenders and title and all our affiliate partners offer, but just time block it, right? Treat yourself, but just make sure it's on your calendar, and you're going to stick to your calendar and not just on a whim take off and go golfing, because that's not operating within integrity of the promise that you made to yourself. So Geoff Glissmeyer, Geoff, why don't you introduce yourself?
Gotta unmute. Yeah, so Geoff Glissmeyer, been here with the Nelson Group for a little over 2.5 years now. The majority of that being as an ISA, and you know, really just making calls. I've recently trying to transition into, you know, being a full-time agent. You know, and yeah, really hoping to keep those principles from the ISA work and move forward with, you know, helping people out with their home needs. So
Geoff, in my experience, why is my belief 100% that ISAs starting in the ISA position will 100% turn somebody into a great realtor?
Because we've learned the discipline of making the phone calls, and we see the fruits of that a little bit more than anybody else, because, you know, really all the money that we're making throughout the year is based upon, you know, making phone calls all day long and getting business from that. And so, you know, it's directly tied to the phone calls is our income. And so it really teaches you that principle early on. And you really get to master the skills of the conversations as well through that time. So
awesome. So Emma, I'm going to have you forward to the triangles real quick. We're just going to kind of show some of Geoff's stats. Geoff is an appointment setting machine, guys. He's one of the people on my team that, I mean, we've got plenty of them, but for whatever reason, he just holds himself to a standard. I rarely have to go in and check to see if he's meeting his metrics or his goals. He just knows what it takes. So the left triangle, upside down triangle, I don't know what you call that other than that. Geoff last year made 18,000 contact attempts. He had 3,554 conversations. He set 275 appointments. He had 16 closings. Now, what's your immediate reaction? Anybody, feel free to chime in when you see those numbers, especially the bottom two.
That Geoff is a beast.
Geoff is a beast. Do you think, guys, most people out there would call 18,000 people to get 16 closings? They absolutely would not. But is 16 closings really the lag measure? Is that really what those 275 appointments produced? Emma's shaking her head no. Why, Emma?
I mean, Jeff and I actually talked a little bit about this when I first pulled these numbers up for him. There was a big skills push on that. There's a lot of things that Jeff learned through that effort that he's just now actually getting that reward for. So it is scary to look at that number with 18,000 dials bringing 16 closings. But where you really see that leading measure versus lag measure is the numbers on the right. And this is just what has been done for Q1 of 2025. Almost 2,800 calls, but it's brought 10 closings to him already. So that's really where you're starting to see that compound. His ability, his speed to lead, his ability to foster relationships and overcome objections and really help people figure out their motivation on it is what is performing for him now.
And the 16 closings out of that 275 appointments, we got to remember that this is the long game, right? We're planting seeds all day long, and these seeds, we might be able to harvest these, a year, 2, 3 years from now. So the majority of those 275 have not come through the pipeline yet, but we can see the funnel. We can see where they're at. We can see the conversations that are being had. We can see that they're moving up in urgency and timeline, and we track all that. So no, that's a great observation. And Jeff, why don't you tell us too? I mean, there was a big kind of realization that you had just not too many months ago, because you look at go back to that real quick. You look at 135 appointments in the first quarter, that far outperforms the 275 from all last year. What happened there? Like, how were you able to do that?
Yeah, so you're not wrong. I almost look at it as those 10,000 of those 18,000 last year were more of just a learning experience for me. I was going through and making the calls and doing the things that I was supposed to be doing, but I hadn't really focused on mastering what it was that I was doing and really trying to make the most out of those conversations. I just knew that if I'm making the dials that conversations will come and appointments will come from that. But after a scripting session with you just kind of really broke through to me. I kind of mastered those conversations a little bit more. Really the biggest thing coming from that was pushing past the no. It's very, very likely that of those 3,500 conversations, the majority of those, had somebody starting out with a no, right? And it was really big for me to realize that, like, I'm getting a no because they don't know who I am. They don't, they're like, who the hell is this that's calling me right now? They know nothing about that. It didn't mean that they didn't want to talk business. And really just had to, push past those no's, and then also get very, very focused with my follow-up, very, very skilled just in placing like when I'm going to call them. And then the other thing from that was consistency, always making sure that I am calling people when I say that I'm going to. And one of those things was as simple as just whenever the conversation was over, instead of just being like, I'll talk to you in a few months, it would be, hey, Dave, you said that you were about 3 months out, but I know that things can be a little bit crazy. And, I just want to make sure that I don't drop the ball on you. So I'm going to go ahead and reach out here in a month and just double check on that. That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. And so what that also does is takes that pressure of that follow-up call off, because now you have permission to be calling them. Now they've basically asked you to call them back, right? And so when I'm going and I'm making those calls, I always start that conversation with like, hey, remember you said that, it was good for me to give you a call here, in a month. And it immediately takes down all tension from the conversation. And they're like, oh yeah, that's right, I did. That was just one little small change that I made was a huge thing. And there's lots of little small changes that, add up to the big things. Like like you'd mentioned, we're, not even finished with the first quarter, but I'm half of the appointments that I'd set last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think just getting in front of people is so crucial and so important right now. I think I mentioned this at the beginning of the call, but I've talked, I'm in some mastermind groups across the nation that are very, very high level mastermind groups. And I've heard this 3 times in 3 different settings within the last months, that we are in one of the most challenging markets that we've had since the late 80s and early 90s. And what's funny about that is you would think that 2005, 6, 7, and 8 would get brought up in that. And it doesn't, because that's the most challenging, market that I can recall was the foreclosure days. And yet that's not even being compared in the dialogue and the conversations that we're having with some of these massive producers. So one thing that we're finding for sure, we are going on a massive amount of appointments, and we are bringing back a very, very small percentage of the listing opportunities and buyers. However, if we weren't going on these appointments and getting face-to-face, I can't even imagine how that would reflect in our numbers. So the other benefit to that is, listen, it's not always best to be practicing in the field in front of potential clients and leads. Yet I do think that there's value to that. I think there's value to getting into a different environment every single day. Sometimes these guys are sending us on between 3 and 5 appointments a day. And you can't imagine the amount of just sheer practice in the way that we're having our communications, how we're handling objections that we get. And it just gives us an opportunity to better ourselves. A few years ago, Josh, our other guy in the role that Geoff's in, sent me on 397 appointments. And guys, I was tired. I was grumpy. I felt like I was beating my head against a brick wall all year long. And then I looked back at the end of the year, and I personally had sold like 89 properties, right? That's a very small percentage of 400 appointments. Yet you take 89 properties and times that by our average commission check. And it was a really good year, right? And it actually took my coach at the time to say, man, why are you in the dumps? Like, pull your head out of the gutter here. That's a phenomenal year. And by the way, that's where we're going. So get used to it. Because the majority of appointments that we go on, after we've kind of laid this roadmap out on what making a move would look like, we find out that it doesn't make sense for them. They've got too low of an interest rate, right? There's not an absolute need to sell. And so we advise them not to. And that's okay, because we're building trust, we're building rapport, and we're so committed to our promise that we'll keep following up with them that we know we'll get their business in the future when they have that extra baby and they absolutely need the space, or when a job relocation comes and they have to sell. So no, that's perfect, Geoff. Thank you. What do we got next, Emma?
Yes.
Any comments on any of that from anybody? Any questions or? Perfect.
Okay, so I'm going to pull the slides back up, and then we're going to hear a little bit more from Geoff, where he's our lead conversion expert. I do want to give the disclaimer. We do have to be brokerage agnostic on this meeting. We have a lot of people from a lot of different brokerages in the area. So as we're talking through, we want to hear from you guys. So raise your hand and interject as you're comfortable. But we do have to make sure that we're not having any conversations around compliance, commissions, no specific details from any clients or transactions, anything like that. And keep in the back of your head, because we have to always give the disclaimer anytime we're talking about phone lead generation. Please abide by TCPA regulations. If you don't know them, reach out to your broker. Okay, I'm going to throw the slides back up. Jeffrey, if we can have you dive straight into just some of the skills that you've had to focus on that have led to better lead conversion.
Yeah, definitely. So, starting with that first one there on that list, speed, speed to lead is one of the most important things. We do get, incoming website leads, sign calls, you name it, any type of incoming lead, a lot of those lead sources, it's being sent out to multiple agents, right? And so I basically know that if I don't get that phone call made or text message sent as well, multiple calls there within the first 5 to, really 5 minutes, somebody else has taken that business. I just have proof of that, because when I do finally get a hold of them, it's always, yep, we're already talking with somebody else. Thanks for your time, though. And so speed is definitely very important, especially with those incoming leads. And then if you're talking consistency, I think that's been another one of the biggest things that I've had to learn, as far as, mastering the outgoing, looking for leads that way. It's really, like I had mentioned a little bit before, being very specific about how you set your tasks when you're setting them. And then you have to follow through. You have to do what you say you're going to do. If you don't, it just, any type of relationship, you've got to have trust, right? Even in these business relationships, and the best way to foster that trust when, it's basically only over the phone conversations that you're having with these people is to do exactly what you say you're going to do. And so, being consistent is key. Same thing comes with, kind of your schedule and how you go about your day. That needs to be consistent as well. I always like to start my day with, and this goes back to the speed to lead as well, but any new leads that we have, those are the very first thing that gets called very first thing in the morning. I go through my canceled, expired, for sale by owners very first. And that's every single morning, every day, every week. Those guys get the first calls. And then, after that, I'm very consistent about going to my business that, basically leads that I'm expecting to transact within the next 3 months. Those guys are the ones that get the calls very next. One reason I start with that is because those are people that I need to talk to, the new ones and the ones that are going to be transacting soon. And so starting with them in the morning gives me, if I don't get a hold of them, I have throughout the rest of the day as well at certain time blocks to reach out again, make sure that I'm calling multiple times, until I get a hold of them and have that conversation that needs to be had. But yeah, consistency is definitely a key. And then, if we're talking the value as well, that's huge. If you're not providing some type of value, you're wasting your time and the lead's time. Really, we need to be bringing value. That's part of what creates the relationship as well. If you're not consistently doing something for them, again, like I said, it's a waste of your time and theirs, because all you're really doing then is exchanging pleasantries, and they're going to tell you, oh yeah, no, we're good right now. And that's kind of how that conversation goes, right? But if you have some type of value to bring, whether it's just a quick update on the market or, anything like that whatsoever, just some type of value, helps create that rapport and foster that relationship.
Love it. The value thing, guys, when I first started prospecting for sale by owners, it was a rough go. We would meet with almost every for sale by owner in town. And the first year I decided I was going to make that a part of my business. I went on hundreds of for sale by owner appointments, and I listed and sold one. And so again, super, super defeating, but we thought, okay, we're not doing this right. What do we need to tweak? So went back to the drawing board, erased everything I'd been doing. And I thought, okay, what if we took a stance here that we're coming out to help them try and sell on their own? What if I just gave them advice on things to keep an eye out for, how the market actually works? The fact that people are going to walk through your home, and because you're the homeowner, they're going to tell you that they absolutely love it, give you hope that they're going to be bringing an offer, and then they ghost you. You never hear from them again, right? Start setting expectations around how Zillow works. As soon as you put your home on Zillow, most of the time, any of the prospective buyers that are interested are going to get routed to an agent that's paying for Zillow leads. So it's virtually impossible for them on some of these sites to be able to actually get a direct call from somebody that might be interested. Let them know that, educate them. Most of the consumers don't know that, and walk them through what else can they do to make their home shine on market, right? We would bring up, like, put it on KSL. KSL is a free form of advertisement, and a lot of people from Idaho search it, and people that are moving here from the Utah area look for housing on there. Once we took that approach of providing sheer value and not just trying to sell them on our services, our world expanded around for sale by owners. The very next year, again, we met with hundreds of them. We closed maybe 7. The next year we closed 13. The next year we closed 17. So it's been a very gradual process, but one that we just weren't willing to give up on because they have raised their hands. They have shown us that they have intent on selling. And I'll tell you this, most of them are willing to pay a buyer's agent. So again, we're not allowed to talk percentages here, but if they're already willing to pay a buyer's agent, we're not really having to overcome an objection of a full fee on both sides, right? It's really just, okay, well, they're obviously not listing because they don't like, or listing for sale by owner because they don't like agents. If they're willing to pay a buyer's agent, that means they're agent friendly. So now we just got to figure out, okay, are they priced within market? A lot of them, believe it or not, price under market. So it's really easy to go out there and meet with them and say, actually, you guys might be a hair under market. We could actually raise your price by X percentage and probably net you the same amount and take the hassle off your shoulders. And then many of these as well that we've gone on, we have not been able to gain their business. We've actually coached them on how to sell it on their own. They've accomplished the goal, but then all of a sudden they've started referring their friends and family to us. And that's when another level, unlocked in my mind. It's like, okay, I need to quit every action I take. I need to quit assuming that we're going to get a return from that immediate action, that targeted action. If we're just out in the world helping people, then business will come from all around. Rule of reciprocity, right? So great. And then what else we got, Geoff?
That last one, I believe, was adaptability, right? Which that is super key, as far as, for one, just mirroring and matching. That's a huge thing as well. If I found that if you can, really get good at the mirroring and matching, it helps create, again, a little bit more rapport, because you're talking on their level. And then also, it just makes the conversation go a lot easier. I'm sure Emma's heard me talk with, 30 different tones of voice throughout a day. It's really just about listening, and you have to make that quick decision and, of which way to go. And, if you do make that right decision and match them the right way, that conversation is going to go a lot further for sure. Also, as far as adaptability goes, to me, I think, a lot of that is key, that you're taking really good notes as well. Even if it's just on their communication style. A lot of times you'll see notes from me like, this person was, super excited or super nice, or this guy was kind of mean. And it really just preps you for your next phone call of, okay, when I get on here with this guy that's mean, I'm going to be talking in a slower, lower voice, just like he did to me. And it just preps me for the conversation, and really, really helps with the follow-up for sure.
And taking notes on things outside of real estate as well. If their dog just had surgery or their daughter went to college, bringing that kind of stuff, just it's an icebreaker immediately. Walls come down. They know that you've vested in the conversation originally. They were heard. I think a lot of the times we try to sell ourselves, and in doing that, we just talk. And I think a lot of that comes from angst and nerves. Would you say asking the right questions is truly how to get where you want to go?
Yeah, most definitely. There's really almost just standard questions that you can ask, but having the right questions and getting the right information is key for sure.
Perfect. So Emma, if you'd bring the slides back up, I want to show you guys something that through our tracking. Again, I went last weekend to this retreat, and I was actually just amazed at the numbers they put on the board, because they correlate directly to the numbers that we're tracking as well within our team. So that gave me just a level of belief that this is industry wide. This is not just us. Here's what it's taking right now, guys, to, if you're just doing cold lead generation, outbound lead generation, how many dials to get conversation? 211 dials to get 33 conversations. 33 conversations to set 4.5 appointments, and then to meet 3 people to sign to 1.5 under contract. We do find that for almost every 4 appointments that we set, we'll have one or two that cancel on us, and it doesn't mean they're gone forever. We're gonna keep on them and get the appointment reset. But that's kind of the metrics that we're working with in today's market. 211 people dialed to get 1.5 clients under contract. Now, the right slide is another way to look at it. I think 211 dials is absolutely defeating on a daily basis. It can be anyway if you let it be, but gamify it, right? Gamify it. Every single dial is worth $34. Every conversation, $236. Every appointment set, $17.90. You guys get the point. It's those of us that take constant action and don't just come in our office and just wait for the phone to ring and kind of get caught up in the doom and gloom, that spiral. We've all been on it before, where you're just like, what am I doing? Why am I in this industry? We all get caught up in it. But if you can just stay in action, I mean, I'm sorry, but there's no way that a person doesn't come into an office and make 200 phone calls a day and not have a signed representation agreement within the first 2-3 weeks, maybe a month of doing business. You will be rewarded. The universe provides, believe it or not. The other thing I want to mention is the lead speaker that came out last week, and he basically said, hey, if you're not continually thinking to yourself every day, I want to burn this thing down and go work at McDonald's, then you're not doing it right. You're not doing it right, right? Another guy said, listen, every new level, as you grow in your business, there's a new devil. There's a new hard. There's a new level of hard that we all assume it's just going to get easier as we grow, and it doesn't. You just bring more chaos and more noise into your life, and then you got to figure out, okay, who do I need to become to now handle this new level? And it's an identity breakthrough. And those are the most powerful points. Most of the time, I don't see those in people until they're totally mentally, emotionally, and sometimes fiscally broke. And then all of a sudden, you see this new level of beast mode that comes out of them because they're as low as they can be. And all of a sudden, they tap into something they didn't even know they had. And that's when the true grit comes out. So
I wanted to ask Geoff a question before we pivot off of just what's made effective lead conversion. Let me pull up that list. So we had speed, consistency, value, and adaptability. Which of those do you feel like had the biggest learning curve for you now that you've been doing it long enough and you have them dialed in? Was there one that was a little bit harder to get a handle on, or one that either took more time for you to really feel like you've mastered that?
I think it would be a combination of the consistency and value. That's one of the ones that it did take me a little bit longer to like really dial that into like, this is how it needs to be done if it's going to be successful. And I mean, you can see that I have gotten that figured out just based off of last year's numbers to this year's numbers. But it's being consistent and having that value every call as well. I went through so much time, and I'm sure Dave hates to hear me say this, but thousands and thousands and thousands of dials where it was a conversation like, oh, okay, yeah, we're not planning on doing anything. It's like, oh, okay, thanks for your time, have a good day. Didn't add any value, didn't do anything, so didn't have a real conversation. It was like I had mentioned before, a waste of my time and theirs. Wasn't doing anybody any good. But yeah, the consistency and the value did take me a little bit longer to lock down, but finally getting it, I mean, it's showing tenfold just how valuable it is to have those.
I love that, man. Basically just changing your intentionality and your purpose. We had a standard on our team for a long time, and it was just the minimum 50 dials a day to stay on the team. Everybody was hitting it, but we weren't seeing the appointments out of it. And then it's like, it was a duh moment for me. I'm just like, why are we making the dials the goal, right? The appointments need to be the goal. And it's funny. So we had some one-on-one and some group coaching. And the second we decided, okay, we're going to change the way we look at things, the things we looked at changed. All of a sudden, the team was teeing up appointments on the same number of calls every single morning because that was the focus now. And when Geoff says push through the no, think about it. Any of us, when we go clothes shopping, which by the way, I hate more than anything on this God's green earth, like hate it. But so if I'm going into Dillard's, you know I'm going in there because I'm desperately need some new underwear. Like they got bad holes in them, right? But anyway, so a sales rep approaches you. Can I help you? Do you need anything? What do we say? What do we all say?
Just looking.
No. But I went in we had a wedding and I went into Dillard's and I said, no, I'm good. And they said, well, I mean, what size are you? You look like a pretty big guy. What size do you wear? Right. I can't say no to that. There's no. So I'm like, to be honest with you, I have no clue, trying to blow him off again. And he pulls this tape measure off of his wallet, just totally ready to go, and just literally throws his hands around my waist. And I'm just thinking to myself, that's what we need to be doing. We need to be asking the right questions. And that first no, it's not a no. It's not a no. It's just like Geoff said, we haven't earned their trust. We haven't even earned their, the ability to have a conversation with them. So it's not a no. It's just not yet. Ask me the next question that is going to give me the feeling that you're somebody that I want to communicate with.
Are you two willing to script those conversations? Because you guys have both been on the receiving and the delivering end of just and it's the same objections. It's one version of the same thing that we hear every time, but it's just that like, no, I'm not interested. Are you guys willing to kind of script through how you guys might handle that?
Of course. Why don't we do, okay, anybody in this market can go find a for sale by owner, right? They're all over Zillow. We won't do expireds because expireds are a little bit harder to track down the contact information if you don't have the right systems and software. But a for sale by owner, any one of us can find. So why don't you call me as a FSBO, Geoff?
You're the owner? Or...
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Ring.
Hello?
Hi, yeah, I was just calling about the home there on Main Street, the one that's up there on Zillow.
Yeah. What can I tell you about it?
Yeah, so just had a few questions for you real quick. My name's Geoff. I'm with the Nelson Group Real Estate at Keller Williams Realty East Idaho here. And yeah, like I said, just wanted to see if I couldn't gather a little bit of information from you real quick. To start there, Dave, I want you to completely know I understand that you're doing for sale by owner and selling the home on your own. What I am curious about though, Dave, is, are you open to working with buyers that are represented by a buyer's agent?
Geoff, I've actually had a few calls and I've had other agents ask me that, and I've told them no, but it seems to be like the common question. So maybe I'm not understanding exactly what that means.
Yeah, definitely. So, the reason we ask is, we do work with a lot of qualified buyers in the area, and, we do tend to field calls on them. And so we just like to, make sure that we do have the right information. And really what we're asking with that question is, you guys will be representing yourself in the sale of your home, right? Doing for sale by owner.
Right.
Yeah. And so basically what we're asking is, these buyers that we do work with, they've signed a representation agreement with a buyer's agent. And so basically they'll be the ones that'll be, handling all of the negotiations and sending offers and things like that. So they'll be your point of contact through that. And we just want to make sure that you're okay with, working with a, real estate professional, just knowing that they're representing our buyers.
I guess it seems like there's a lot of people out there that have an agent that's representing them. I mean, we don't plan on paying an agent, but would we work with one or have them be a point of contact? I guess so.
Perfect. Yeah. And that's really what we needed to know. As far as any of that other stuff goes, it'll, that's something that's handled through negotiations. So, but we do appreciate you, being willing to work with, our buyer's agents, and, I'll get that in the notes here and make sure that our agents know that. A couple other quick questions for you here real quick, Dave. I'm looking at the home. It's beautiful, fantastic location. What even has you considering selling the home?
Oh yeah. We're moving to Boise.
Oh, moving to Boise, just new job over there or new adventures or?
Yeah. I got a new job. I'm going to be working over at Microsoft.
Oh, awesome. Well, that sounds like it'll be good for you guys. And then, really just one last question for you there, Dave. I am always curious. I do talk to a lot of for sale by owners. How did you guys arrive at the price that you have it listed at?
Yeah, we just I've been kind of keeping my eye out in the neighborhood, and I've just noticed a couple pop up on Zillow, and this seems to kind of be where they're listed out for similar properties.
Gotcha. So just kind of looking at, what you're seeing that's active out there and kind of just, went with the price from that.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. No, awesome, man. And I totally get that. And, one of the reasons I asked that question, Dave, is, anytime there is a for sale by owner that comes on the market, we do like to run our own market analysis on it. For one, just to do research for our buyers, but two, it also helps us stay up to date on, the certain niche areas of the market. And here at the Nelson Group, we prefer to have win-win deals. We don't want our buyers coming in making you a insulting lowball offer, but at the same time, we don't want one of our clients getting in, over their head underwater with a home as well. And so, with that, in the spirit of the win-win deal, we do like to do an agent preview, basically where we have one of our agents come preview the home, get a real good feel for it, see if any of our buyers, might actually be interested or not. We found that saves you guys, the homeowners, and us, quite a bit of time, as far as unnecessary showings and things like that, and really gives us a good grasp on who might be interested. And as a thank you there, Dave, we're going to share that market analysis with you. Really, it'll just give you some good insights into the market, what competition you have out there. And we'd also look to be a resource for you, answer any questions that you might have on the market. We can even give you some tips for your Zillow posting there as well, if that's something that would be, that you'd be interested in. Yeah, and we really do want to get that as soon as possible, before we start fielding calls on the home. Would it be all right if we, swung in there tomorrow for a quick, like I said, preview of the home? Shouldn't take too long at all, and then answer any questions that you might have about that analysis.
So are you bringing a buyer, Geoff? Do you have a buyer you're working with?
No, I don't have anybody specifically in mind. Again, like I said, we do work with a lot of buyers in the agent or in the area. But yeah, nobody specific in mind as of right now. And that's part of what the preview process will help us do, is see if, like I had mentioned, if we do have any buyers that would actually, their needs would be fit with your home. And so really, like I said, yeah, it's just for our agents to come preview the home, and we want to make sure that we're providing you with some value as well for allowing us to do that.
I think as long as you guys or whoever you're sending out just knows that we're not going to list. I don't want them to come out and try to list my home.
Nope, definitely. And I'm not trying to list your home either right now, Dave. Again, like I said, really just want to stay up to date on the market and make sure that we're providing you some value as well. And, I completely understand that you're not looking to list your home right now.
Perfect. So then Jeff's going to give me some time frames that work and set the appointment. By the way, guys, Geoff, how many of those calls do you get one of us in the door on those for sale?
8 to 9 out of 10. So about 8.5 out of 10 of them.
8.5 out of 10, guys. It's incredible, right? I mean, that's pretty damn good batting average, man. You might have gotten in the wrong sport. No, I'm kidding. It's just like that. He hasn't made any promises that we're going to come out and try to list. We haven't talked about commission. He got a little bit of motivation out of me. He asked, why are you listing? Maybe you asked, why are you listing on your own? Or at least, how did I arrive at the value? Right? Yeah.
So normally I didn't ask that yet. My process with that is set the appointment first. And really solidify that appointment and let them know that our agent's coming out. And then before I get off the phone with them, I always do say, hey, like I had mentioned earlier, I do talk to a lot of for sale by owners, and I'm always just curious, what was the reasoning that you decided to, put the home up on Zillow yourself instead of listing it with a professional?
Awesome. And that's when he starts digging in on, really, is it a money issue? Do they not like agents? Have they, most of the time, what I used to get, Geoff, tell me if this is still consistent, is that, oh, we've done this a time or two on our own before, and so they've had success with it and they think they can do it again. And sometimes they can. To add to this, by the way, round of applause. Scripting in front of a group is always scary, right? No, you crushed it. So another thing I used to do, guys, is I got to a point where we were in a different market, right? Now, these days, you just need to get out and get in front of everybody. But back then, my time was very limited. I didn't have a team. I didn't have the bandwidth to go on every appointment that I was setting, plus do all the lead generation. So I would just ask them at the very end. I would say, listen, once I figured out why they decided to list on their own, I'd say, Geoff, hey, can I ask you a quick question? Again,
Sure.
I'm not going to come over and try to list your home. However, if there was a way that I could come and show you how we could net you the same amount of money and take all the hassle off your shoulders and guarantee you a quicker sale and actually get buyer feedback, because it sounds like the people haven't really been giving you feedback that have been coming through your home. I mean, really, would that be worth 30 minutes of your time? Would you be willing to let me kind of present what it is that we do if I can net you the same amount of money?
Yeah, I mean, I'd at least hear you out.
Right. It's an easy ask, and not many people are going to say no. I mean, they're in their head, they're thinking, well, how the heck can you do that with X percentage of commission? But in some cases we can, because they've already told us they're willing to work with a buyer's agent. By the way, most of them are willing to pay a buyer's agent. So we're only trying to overcome a listing fee. And if they've left any money on the table, let's say they haven't left money on the table. Let's say that they are priced where they need to be. Well, Dave, how the heck would you be able to net them the same amount after your fee? We run them through the story of what most for sale by owners do. They literally get an offer after they've been on the market for 60 days, 30 to 60 days. They're exhausted. There's usually an agent that's representing the buyer, which is kind of a professional negotiator. And through those negotiations, they're so tired of the process, they end up giving up another 5 to 6% off the sales price because they're just done, right? And they put themselves through 60 days of hell trying to do this on their own. So when I get in front of them, I walk them through that hypothetical equation that this could happen. If you guys get to this point, would you have looked back to our original conversation today and thought to yourself, I wish I would have just hired a professional to take this out of my hands? And a lot of them would say yes. So anyway, thank you, Geoff. All right, Emma, I know we're running low on time. Hopefully this is somewhat valuable to you guys. Scripting is always, I love it. I love doing it. All right.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to put our slide back up a little bit. Geoff, I wanted to hear some more from you. I put this together off of Geoff and I's conversation when we were preparing for it, but wanted you to kind of chat through what your day looks like when you're sitting in front of the database of leads and the people who you need to call, how you organize, how you decide who you're going to call, and how you prepare for long-term follow-up.
Yeah, definitely. So I touched on a little bit of it earlier, but my day is always started off with new leads. Like I said, canceled, expired, for sale by owners come very first. Any other new leads from incoming, sources, those are also called right away after the cancel expireds. And then I move on to so this would be just like my morning time frame, right? This is kind of how it lays out. Usually just a couple hours of this. So all the new stuff. And then I go right to, like I said, people that are going to be transacting, within the next 3 months, hopefully. And again, I mentioned earlier, but there's a huge reason that I do those all in the morning, and that's because those are the people that need to be contacted the most. And so that allows me to call them in the morning, call them in the afternoon, call them later in the afternoon, call them in the evening before I go home. It just kind of breaks down that schedule for the rest of the day to make sure that they're getting enough phone calls, that I get in contact with them and can have that conversation that needs to be had. After that, I'm moving on to basically kind of just like lower priority follow-up calls for the afternoon hours. Just found that answering isn't always as good in the afternoon. So not that I don't want to talk to them, but out of in a priority way, they're the ones that I'm calling in the afternoon. They're more of the longer term nurtures, or just people that I've had a good conversation with in the past and told them that I'd check up. So I always make sure that, like I'd mentioned before, if I told them that I'll call in 2 months, I'm calling in 2 months. And so I have those tasks on there as well. And then that's when I go, right after I make those calls, it's back to calling those news and hot leads that didn't answer in the morning. So go through those again. And then that's where I'll also take some of that time in the afternoon to, respond to emails, text messages, all that kind of stuff. But instead of being like a squirrel and, answering all those emails and texts and stuff just as they come in and, still trying to keep to my schedule, I just have that scheduled out as a time like, okay, I've made these calls. Here we go. I'm going to make these responses to emails, texts. And then I'm right back on the phones for, kind of the later afternoon, evening session of, again, I'm making those phone calls to the news that didn't get talked to. And then I'm also just going to have more nurture leads that I'm going to call as well. But I basically keep everything just in 3 levels. So like a 1, 2, 3 is kind of how they're, labeled. And basically like my ones are my news and my hots. So the ones I know I call in the morning. The 2s are the ones that are going to get the calls in the afternoon that don't need to call quite as bad. The 3s are going to be the longer term leads and the ones that, again, they need to be called, but not quite as, big of a priority.
What I love about this is it's a system, right? And why are you so true to it?
Because it works.
Because it works.
Yep.
And how long did it take you to adopt the belief system? And I want you to answer this honestly. How long did it take you to adopt that belief system that it works?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. Even though you had a bunch of people around you every single day telling you it works. And guys, that's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. It takes most people that we onboard a good at least year, if not two, to finally be willing to plug into it. And sometimes it takes people being, again, mentally, emotionally, and fiscally broke before they do. Other times it just takes one win, one appointment set, one listing agreement signed, one buyer rep signed, and then they're like, boom. Okay, let's go. This works. And then Emma, real quick, for those people that are on the call that don't feel like they've got a database to be able to really do what we're talking about here at the level we're talking about, Emma's going to show you some simple math to show you how many transactions you've actually got in your cell phone, in your contacts list, your database, your sphere of influence. And this is something that Place, the company we're partnered with, showed us, and it's true. So go ahead, Emma.
Yeah. Okay. So the numbers that we're working with on this, hypothetically, you have 200 contacts in your phone, or between you and your partner, or you and your sibling, or whatever. If you can get a list of 200 people together, whether they live in Idaho Falls or not. So you're starting with a database of 200. If they're all in Idaho Falls, our last census record had a 73% home ownership rate. So if we've got 73, let me do the in-between math while I'm chatting. If 73% of that 200 own homes, there's 146 homeowners in your list of 200 people. NAR reports that the average individual is going to move every 5 to 7 years. So we're going to split the baby and say 6. Your 146 homeowners, out of them, 24 are going to sell their homes. So there are 24 listings hidden within your list of 200 people every year, just based off of your averages. Take that number, double it, because every seller has a buyer, and you've got 48 transactions hiding within your 200 list if you can capture them. And that's where it comes into that consistency, your lead conversion, making sure that you touch base with them. There is not a magic wand that's going to tell you where these 24 homeowners who are going to sell their home, who are they within your 200? How are you going to find them? There's not a magic wand. It's having those conversations and being comfortable putting yourself in front of those people. So you don't have to have a crazy big database. We've accumulated a crazy list of people just from Dave's history within the industry and from some of the systems that we use. But you can start just with that 200 people. Those 200 people also know everyone else. 73% of people in Eastern Idaho own a home, and they move every 6 years. So there is business out there. As the market shifts, it's so important that we look at it from a lens of abundance and not from scarcity. If you're comfortable putting yourself out there, you can capture as many as you will commit yourself to doing of that 24. Can you get 1 in every 6? Can you improve that in next year and get 1 in every 4? But if you don't create your database and you don't set goals around making sure that you have those conversations and you're fostering a relationship with those 200 people, not just as a fellow, somebody from your PTO or your neighbor or your partner's coworker or whatever, you have to establish that subtext under it, that I can be these things, we can have this relationship. And don't forget that I have this business, I'm an entrepreneur, and I need your support. When you make those requests and you're able to stay top of mind, that is where you will increase what percentage of those 24 transactions you're actually going to be able to capture.
You've got to touch them on average, guys. You've got to put a phone call into them once every quarter. And it doesn't have to be a phone call where you're like, hey, are you making a move? Right? Those are awkward. But there's easy ways to call them and just touch base and just say, hey, how can I be of value? It doesn't have to be real estate related. Sheila, I don't know if Sheila's on the call. She was. She's got she told me once not long ago, she says, Dave, I don't want to be a Dave. I don't want to be a Geoff. I don't want to make 20,000 calls in a year. And that's okay. She's like, she's got a database of, I think she told me, under 200 people, and she closed 17 transactions out of that last year. So she's pretty close to these metrics with a very small, yeah, there she is. How many people do you have in your database, Sheila?
172.
172, and you closed 17 transactions, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so there you go. It's true and tried. You just got to believe, and you've got to make those call attempts. And dude, I want to script with you. We don't have time, and then there's one other thing I wanted to talk about on those slides. And I think it was the MIT. I think it was the MIT findings that they put out. So on average, guys, it takes 7 to 12 call attempts to make contact with somebody. And then it takes at least 4 throughout the year, at minimum 4 throughout the year to stay top of mind. And that's not including, newsletters that you send out to them, social media messages, text messages, client appreciation events, just anything that you want to sprinkle on the top. Now, I had a guy in my organization. We actually still have him. He lives in Hawaii now. He's working remotely for us. He used to come in at 8:30 and he would lead generate till noon, and then he would leave at noon and he would come back at 3 o'clock. So he took a really long lunch break and went and hit the gym and took care of anything, things that he wanted to do during the day. He would come back and do another dial session from 3 o'clock till 7 at night. The majority of his appointments set were in the evening hours. And MIT put out a study that said the exact same thing, that your one of your best opportunities to actually get in touch with people is between the hours of like 4 and 8 o'clock p.m. I think, or right in there. Maybe it's 4 and 6. So if you want to take some of the day off, and after you do a morning session and you're just burnt out, dude, go play a round of golf, go treat yourself. But come back at night, commit to yourself, and see if you can get some people to answer the phone. Okay.
There's a lot of interesting data around that MIT study as well. I'm going to leave it up for just a quick second before I take us to our wrap-up slide. That QR code right here, that will take you through to the Harvard Business Study report that they did. It's got a lot of really, really interesting graphics. So I'm going to wait 2 seconds for you guys to scan that QR code if you would like.
Awesome.
Derek awkwardly close to his camera, so I'm going to wait just a little bit longer.
And then, guys, all I ask from you on these calls, it makes my day when somebody's brave enough to get on and unmute and just share one aha, just something that we learned today.
I'll go.
Like the
I'm
whole,
gonna try it.
Right.
yes, sir. I just like the whole not taking no for an answer kind of an approach, or at least not the first time, just kind of digging a little deeper. And and getting kind of to the root of everything.
Awesome. By the way, guys, this is Josh. Josh, I didn't even know you were on the call. This is our team member, our partner that lives in Hawaii. Worked with us for 5 years and then moved out there to pursue his dream, and still working remotely for us, setting appointments, doing the same activities. Thanks, Josh. Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got one. I think the biggest thing for me is really the consistency as well as building that trust, because I mean, that's basically everything in life right now. Is if you can't build trust with someone or value, why are they wanting to go with you? You have to make it personal to them, and then following it up with consistency. They're going to say no. There's always going to be no's, but you have to keep moving forward and make sure you give them something that they can't say no to. And that's what I love about this industry is we do help people find something that they love, and they're just looking for that. But you have to be the person that they want to buy from, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And you have to have that value and that consistency. Otherwise, we're going to find it somewhere else.
I think a true myth out there is that sales is the exchange of services. It's not. It's the exchange of value. It's awesome, Derek. Anybody else?
Thank you for inviting me on today.
Our pleasure. Thanks, Tanya.
I appreciate the opportunity to just sit in and see how you guys operate. It's been really, really encouraging for me and mind opening. I do my business a little different. I'm a sole agent, but I do have consistency. I do follow up a lot, but I do notice where I'm lacking. I don't provide value necessarily like you do. And I think that that's been very mind opening for me. So thanks.
Thank you. Love it. Well, guys, unless anybody's got something else they want to share, we're going to
have a quick thing.
Oh, yeah.
There is a link to a Google form in the chat. If you guys can fill that out, I would absolutely love that. It's just a quick feedback form. There's a section for you guys to drop any emails of people who you want to be here next time so that I can send them an invite. And then we're trying to gauge some interest. We're hoping this summer that we can convert this into a little bit more of a local event. It's much more organic for us to genuinely just have a mastermind if we want to hear from you guys rather than us spewing all of this information. So indicate on there on that question if you guys would be interested and willing to attend an in-person mastermind. And then who we can invite as well. Our April topic it's gonna be April 30th. I will get this on your guys' calendar once that we hop off this call. But we're gonna be talking about activity sprints. So things that we can do to increase our results when we have a burst of energy, when we have some time, or when we really need to smooth out that roller coaster that is real estate of I have all the pendings, I have none the pendings. I have all the pendings, I have none. So there's our topic. We'd love to have you guys there. I will let Dave finish wrapping it up.
No, and then I think Emma too, and you probably already have it in your schedule, but just doing more of a transactional approach where you and Alex maybe share some of the systems that you guys have put together to remove some of the pain points throughout the transaction and stay ahead of things before clients call us,
Funny, you should say that. Our May topic, our little hokey title is handling objections and negotiation strategies, but we will talk, the back half of that is once that they're under contract, how do we stay on top of our clients' expectations and how do we preemptively negotiate? How do we prepare so that the ground's already smooth when problems come up?
Awesome. Well, guys, I appreciate you showing up. We're going to keep doing it, whether we have 3 people or 50 people. So we're committed to it this year, and I hope it was good. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks.
Thank you.